Hey you, yeah you. Have you downloaded the Notable Live app yet? If not, you are missing out on a real-time, face-to-face conversation with me and my fellow notables. On Notable Live, I can hold exclusive virtual events for fans like you so we can connect live, play tribute, and even bid on live auction items. All you gotta do is just download the mobile app today or click on the link in my bio to create your free account so you can check out what notable events I have coming up next. And I hope to see you in the room.
Live tonight from the virtual Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, we say good evening, race fans, and welcome to qualifying night of the eRacing Association 2020 Omega Cup Winterbowl. We're happy to have you with us at RaceSpot TV tonight from the Volunteer State. We're welcoming you into the broadcast booth alongside of myself, Evan Pasoko. Happy to be joined by Chase Rodman. Our producer downstairs is Tyler Maxon. Over 650 drivers ready to go racing tonight, all in hopes of making tomorrow's main event, Chase, but to not get too far ahead of ourselves, a very critical qualifying night up next.
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty cutthroat here in these heat races tonight there, Evan. About 25-ish cars going 25 laps here around this just over half-mile speedway, and only the top two will make the race tomorrow night here at the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. And my first time looking at this racetrack in iRacing, and man, it looks like an elbows-up place, really high-banked, really small racetrack. So I'm sure we'll be seeing a little bit of, door beating and some fenders getting bent up here tonight. I think it's going to be fun to watch.
The fan favorite, especially in these NASCAR Cup Series cars. So we'll see who could be just the top two with the 25 or so in this race. And, of course, we talk about qualifying in to tomorrow's main event. So right now, open practice happening. We're going to be watching just one of 26 races happening all at the same time right now on the iRacing format. We'll qualify to set our grid. Then we'll race that 25-lap race. The top two move into the next day. That'll give us some 52 cars, Chase, headed into tomorrow evening, where we'll do it again. We'll practice, but then we'll qualify those 52 drivers. Only the top 40 going to make that 150-lap race. That's the main event that you don't want to miss, because that one has a $10,000 purse.
Yeah, unbelievable stuff here tonight. And all the guys that are in this race here tonight, all 650 entrants, they didn't pay a dime to get into this race. So $10,000 purse, $7,500 to win tomorrow night after 150 laps. Second place, $1,000. You see it right there on your screen. Third place, $750. Fourth, $500. And fifth to $250. And then everybody that makes the show tomorrow night also gets entered into a drawing to win an Oculus Quest 2, which is a pretty cool, VR setup there. So a lot of cool stuff going on here. And this isn't just the first event. We've got a couple more of these planned later on down the road, but this is the first time we've had it, and a lot of great stuff up for grabs.
Yeah, plans for the spring, the summer, and the fall of next year. And you touched on, I think, the best part about this, right? A lot of the times we see these big events on the sim, and if you want to make some money, you got to spend some money, right, to pay in, to qualify. All these drivers, there was no barrier on entry fee. Everybody able to qualify into this one if they wanted to participate to get a shot at the bulk of that $10,000. And tonight, of course, is time to kind of put up if you want to get into that main event. And let's welcome in the people who have made all of this possible into the RaceSpot TV booth. Would welcome in Jesse Wuji and Matt Costas. Gentlemen, and we'll hand things over to you for a little bit just to kind of tell us about how this event came together and what we'll be seeing over the course of these next 2 nights.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for throwing it to me. So, Jesse Wuji here on the broadcast, and I'm looking forward to this event. I mean, we're here at Nashville, beautiful track, definitely difficult to drive, that's for sure. We got a lot of drivers here, I believe over 600 registered, so it's a lot of people fighting for $10,000 split up between the top 5. So I'm looking forward to all the action, and we have a lot of great people on board supporting and even help get us to this point. Our team has been great. Matt, Sean, Tim, all the folks who have been on board to really help get this thing alive. So, I'm looking forward to a lot of fun racing today. Matt, what you got?
Man, Jesse, it's exciting to be here for the kickoff event. Welcome to all the participants, man. This is about as realistic to real racing as you can get virtually, in my opinion. And it was a beautiful thing this year, Jesse, watching you make your NASCAR Xfinity debut at a road course that you'd never been on in your life. You never got to practice this year or qualify with COVID. And guess what? You showed up just like these racers are showing up tonight, getting in your car for the first time ever. We gave the setup tonight for the first time ever to people. And I mean, that's just a real life thing I saw a real NASCAR driver go through, and you adapted and overcame. But what was beautiful is you said if it wasn't for this platform here, iRacing, you wouldn't have known how to take the turns, where the thing was on the blind turn, and how to navigate. It was beautiful to watch you finish on lead lap. And again, I know you love the racing community. That's what this event is tonight, your way of giving back. Of course, we got great partners that have kept you on the racetrack, and as your tip of the cap to the race community. Again, you're just an ordinary guy that had a dream. You put in a lot of effort, a lot of hours on the sim, and this tournament is really a reach of you back into the community to keep, the underdog story alive. I know there's kids out there 13 and up that were able to enter tonight. I mean, that is incredible. My mom used to say, stay off the video games. Today, listen, put the kids on the game. There's so much good things happening and challenges in a virtual world you can connect to. So I love what we're doing. And Jesse, man, talk to us about how this sim racing compares to real life racing. I know we got a couple extra minutes, and some of these drivers, they've never had a chance to actually get behind a wheel of a real car. How do you use iRacing and this platform to prepare for, making that Xfinity debut or any of the other tracks you raced in this year?
Well, thank you so much, Matt, for all those kind words. And yeah, iRacing is definitely a great tool for drivers to use before they get to the real-life racetracks, especially with this year being the COVID year, with the pandemic going on, not having real-life practice, not being able to get out there and test, not having all the same resources that you normally have in a regular year. But when you have iRacing, you have this simulation platform that where its software is actually really, really good and really helps really showcase the true dynamics of racing with tire wear, with how vehicles feel on a track, even the motors. I mean, we had some drivers today saying, hey, my motor is getting really hot on here. This thing really simulates real life. So I'm looking forward to seeing how these drivers adapt all day. I know it's definitely a difficult track, definitely a difficult setup, and definitely going to be a difficult race, but they're going to be fighting and battling it out, and we'll see who makes it to tomorrow.
Jesse, man, speaking of motors blowing up and just stuff happening in racing, I mean, as your agent, that's one of the craziest things for me is, look, that's just part of racing too, right? I mean, I can have people look at film of places we showed up to and a motor blew up in the first few laps, and we're just kind of having the deal. You got to figure out how to drive the equipment you got as best as you can with that piece of equipment, right? So, again, we're not asking people to do things that a real guy hasn't had to do and isn't doing. Now, listen, I want to switch gears and get all the excuses out of the way, right? We got a real event. Tomorrow we're going to have a real life national anthem, just like you would hear at a race in the real life. We have a starting command given by, man, an incredible young lady. I'll tell you, we got to have her son, Elijah Smith and Emmett Smith, the NFL all-time leading rusher. We got to have them help us give the starting command at the Texas Motor Speedway, Jesse, for your race. I know Notable Live, Emmett Smith's company, is partnered with you. I know you guys are involved in a big venture. Can't wait to tell people more about that tomorrow night. I know Emmett's going to have a commercial, but his wife's going to be giving the starting drivers, start your engine command. Hey, man, we know who runs the world. Girls, right? That's what I tell my little daughter. So for all the girls that maybe competed in this, first ever event, welcome. And of course, we know the guys are going to be battling it out as well. We've been peeking in on some of these practice sessions. So kudos to everybody. We got some other great partners. We're going to do things for the viewers tomorrow night, not just for the competitors. I mean, the 10 grand cash is incredible. I'll talk about that, or really let Jesse wrap up talking about that. The Quest 2s, talk about taking a virtual experience to the next level. And then, one of my favorite things is just the competition level tonight. I mean, this is how you get better, race against better drivers. We got some top iRacing type drivers in this event. We got some real life race car drivers in this event as well. So, competition makes you better. We're excited about the field. We're excited about the real life. We are excited about the partners. And Jess, for the viewers, that little tip I was getting to is we're going to be doing a sweepstakes we're helping promote for one of your partners in the real life racing that is giving away an ultimate home sim racing setup. I mean, a lot of people reached out like, is this PlayStation or Xbox? And of course, we all, as gamers, understand the difference, right? There's not a racing game like this out there. So that's why we picked this platform. Doesn't mean maybe you won't see us do other things. We can't wait to talk about all we have in store for this team that we're put together by Jesse. But I will tell you that the competition is going to be incredible. The prizes are going to be real. But for the viewers, you're going to have a chance. If you don't have the PC, or if you want to even upgrade your PC, there'll be incentives tomorrow night where we'll plug a sweepstakes. And of course, I think you saw a little snap of that today. And Jess, man, talk to us about the 10 grand, the Oculus Quest, and then we'll get this thing underway.
Well, there's definitely 10 grand on the line and some Oculus Quest 2s, and some people are going to win all of that stuff over the next couple of days. I'm looking forward to it. It is going to be exciting. But Booth guys, let's throw it to you because we're about to get to some qualifying, some heat races, and some good fun.
Yeah, tonight, as you guys mentioned, just the first of 2 nights, and qualifying is underway. So 5 minutes on the clock, already ticking down. These drivers have 2 attempts at getting the best lap in qualifying. And, of course, we talked about it off at the top there with the field of some 20-plus drivers, but only the top 2 getting that golden ticket into tomorrow night. Chase, this qualifying session probably very important. I've already seen a lot of drivers making mistakes and kind of burning that first lap. We're on board with Jacob M. Williams right now, and you can see he didn't like what happened down in 1 and 2. He'll reset and go again, but once you start your first timed lap, you can't go back. So if these drivers reset or try to recover from a mistake and try again, they're only really going to have that second timed lap to do it. Once you start the first time lap and you make a mistake, that's all you get.
Yeah, and as we mentioned earlier, it's only 25 laps here. There's not a whole lot of time if you're starting at the back to make a move up to the front of the field, and we're only taking the top 2 to tomorrow night's $7,500 to win main event. So you have got to lay down an absolute burner of a lap time here if you want any shot at transferring out of this race here tonight. There's the top 2. The winner and second place will be moving on. So you take a look at the left side of your screen there. That is the leaderboard as they run right now. Still 2 minutes left to turn a lap in here. We've got about 25-ish cars in here to go for 25 laps. And if I'm a guy like Ronald Brummer or Braden Goddard, I'm a little bit worried right now as I'm sitting at the bottom of the speed charts. But, the cool thing also about this event there, Evan, it was open for anybody. Rookies, pro DWC guys that run in the Coca-Cola iRacing series. There's guys in here that have never ran a race this big in their career, but they're in it here tonight, and they have as good a shot as anybody else does.
And there's quite a variance of drivers, right? We also touched on this, the fact that there's some drivers in this session and in some of the other races that are going on right now that have some real-life experience. There's other drivers who have kind of toned themselves in and kind of reeled in the skills on the sim as sim racing pros. I'm also noticing, though, it's not normally guys who just drive these NASCAR Cup Series cars, right? On this iRacing service, you can drive a whole variance of kind of race cars and a whole variance of kind of tracks. There's a lot of short track guys in here, the late models and legends cars guys who do a lot of the big events, taking these big old clunky cup cars out here around Nashville, right? So they're in their short track element. Maybe some drivers who feel more comfortable in these cup cars here as well. But, despite it being one of the oldest tracks on the sim, if you will, it's actually one of the newest to get to the sim. We haven't seen NASCAR Cup racing here since 1984, not seen NASCAR Top 3 racing since the year 2000, but this is its current day state. There's a lot of push to get it back on the calendar. That's my favorite part to think about sim racing, is being able to do events like this.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, we're about to wrap up qualifying here in just a moment. As you mentioned, this track is old, and you look at it from that shot right there. Just look at the banking down there in the set of corners, man. It's going to be really exciting to watch these guys try and maneuver these big, heavy race cars. 3,400-pound Cup cars around this racetrack with 25 guys around them, and everybody trying to get into that top two. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And Jesse, I know you're very excited as well as we're getting ready to get this thing going.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for sure. And this track, running it at night definitely helps. It helps give you that level of grip and a little bit more security than it is running it during the day, just because of some of the cooler temperatures and the sun not really beaming down on the track. Anytime those track temperatures come up, you start getting a little bit more slippery on this particular track. But this is a track where it's really, really easy to make mistakes. When you go in a corner, it's super easy to overdrive it. It's super easy to get super loose in there. And then coming off the corner, if you're not patient, you will get loose. And we might see that on these first few laps with drivers struggling on those first couple corners, trying to get through traffic, trying to battle it out. We're going to see what happens, but I know it might get a little sloppy at some time, but we'll see how much patience there is. Let's see who has the patience to make it to the end of this race.
And on that point, want to mention as well, if we have incidents in this, the caution laps will not count against our 25-lap total. Let's go trackside, take a look at our eRacing starting grid, and it is Storm Patterson on pole, his 18.280, best of the bowl, and he'll bring us to the green flag alongside the 16 of Andy Tripiano. Jesse Baker and Kyle Sadowski going to make up row 2. They'll start 3rd and 4th with Dylan D. Thomas and Chase Braylon in P6. Michael Morley rolls from 7th, Miles Crabb in P8 with Jacob Williams 9th and Zachary Hale the top 10.
Yeah, back behind Zachary Hale. How about Josh Parker in the 11th starting spot? Tim Pinion in the 42 car will start 12th. And we got Garrett Smithley, real-life NASCAR driver right there in car number 51. He'll roll off from the 13th spot here tonight. The 17 of Chris Noblet also to his outside. Row number 8, it's going to be the 5 car of Andrew Harris. And to his right, it's Joe Gwilt in the 37 car. Row number 9, the 58 car of Jess Chambers. Also the 21 of Galen Brandt Clark. And then behind those guys, David Layek, Sammy Yaha, Ronald Brummer, Braden Goddard, Jack Wrights will be the field in this one.
Only one driver opting not to take his time in the qualifying session. That puts Wrights at the very back of the grid, and I think that goes to show you how important they feel like qualifying up front is. We were talking about temperatures as well. Night racing here just outside of Nashville, Tennessee. 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Track temp just a little bit over that at 79 degrees Fahrenheit, so you don't have that sun beating down and heating up. So you're going to have basically maximum grip here than you would any other time in the sim. And again, this 25-lap qualifying race is going to be just over 15 miles in total distance. So we're doubled up. Again, only the top 2 spots pay into tomorrow night of 26 drivers. They're going to try to do it, Chase. And we've seen lots of special events over our years, I think, on the iRacing service. Top 2 is an awfully tight bar. So while those guys in a bid pack are going to be very aggressive off of the start, watch for the leaders to remain mistake-free. I think that's going to be critical.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned at the top of the broadcast, this the way that this is set up, man, it's really cutthroat, and it has to mean that you are on your game every time you hit the racetrack. And for a guy like Storm Patterson, he was quickest in practice, now he's quickest here in qualifying. He's got the best seat in the house from the front row, and he's looking to punch his ticket into tomorrow night's 150-lap event here at the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. But the other thing is you see all these different names of drivers with different skill sets. Everyone has the same setup. Jesse and Matt mentioned it at the top of the show. Everybody's going to be kind of on the same setup here, so there's not going to be really an advantage. They all got the setup today. As the pace car rolls off, man, we're ready to go. 25 laps around Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. This heat race is underway.
And it's a good start for those lead twos. So Patterson maintains the lead. Tripiano to second. Looks like we're single filed back to about P5 or 6 is where that pack is funning things out. The likes of the 03 of Thomas. The 6 car of Morley up on the outside. But the longer you fight back there, the further the race leaders want to get away. And a good bit of separation as it's Patterson at the end of lap 1.
Quite an interesting line there for your race leader. This is my first time seeing a race at this track. Oh, your third place car sideways in the corner. Kyle Sosnowski tries to hang on.
He almost saves it.
He almost did save it right there, but he goes around. He's facing the right direction. But, Evan, you saw it right there, man. He just cooked it in there a little bit too hot and got that thing sideways.
Jesse, you saw it there too. It looked like as we get our first caution of this race that he was really trying to get to the inside of that 16 of Tripiano. We'll get a second look here in just a minute, but there was definitely no help from behind. That was just that 7 of Sosnowski feeling like he had to be aggressive early, and once he lost it in turn 3, he did all he could to round it back, but eventually came back down the hill and collected, I think that was the 03 car, Dylan D. Thomas.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, a lot of these drivers have never competed for this amount of money. I mean, $10,000 on the line. I mean, this is probably the most amount of money that a lot of these drivers have ever competed against, minus some of the Coca-Cola drivers. But, with that on the line, I mean, some of these drivers are going to get aggressive pretty early in this race. Everybody wants to make it to the day 2 event. So they're going to be doing everything in their power to do that.
The big winners, Chase, I saw from that one, the likes of Chase Bradlin, who was able to pick up a handful of positions. He was behind that when it started in the 75 machine, was able to avoid the incident. He started 6th in this race, is now up to position number 4, and is going to be not that far away from that P2 cut. We also saw for the replay high above Garrett Smithley, you shouted out on the grid. He picks up 2 spots by avoiding that incident on the outside of the racetrack. So we mentioned the race leaders maintaining mistake-free, at least in this early part of the race. If you're within striking distance of those top 2, don't overdrive the car, and just make sure you stay out of these incidents so you can get some spots in bulk, and I think somebody like us Radlin could really take advantage of this.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, I was trying to mention it before we had that incident right there, but the way these drivers are getting around this track is very interesting to me. We see them kind of in the middle, and then we saw our race leader kind of diamond it off the corner off of turn number 2, and it seems like the middle of the racetrack is the place to be to kind of carry that speed and not let somebody get up next to you down the straightaways. So as the run goes on here, obviously it's only a 25-lap race here, but as the run goes on, I'm really interested to see how the track wears in, see where these guys end up at the end of this race, and see who's going to be making moves, whether on the bottom or on the top. Or we're here to short track, man. We might see these guys hand out the old chrome horn a little bit here. As I see Michael Morley, Dylan Thomas, those guys got quite a bit of damage after that incident. So hopefully, their aerodynamics are all right, and they're not going to be hindered too bad here as far as their speed down the straightaways.
It's another thing that makes iRacing the best motorsports simulator on the planet. The fact that these cars aren't going to get beat up if you are involved in incidents. It is going to slow you down a little bit. But Jesse, having damage at a place like Nashville, very different than having damage at a place like an Atlanta Motor Speedway or a Charlotte, right? Those big 1.5-mile intermediate tracks. So you can get away with a little bit. That's just quintessential short track racing, but there definitely is a line where you don't want to tear up your car too much.
Yeah, that's definitely true for sure. So, when you go to a place like, Atlanta or any of the 1.5-mile, 2-mile, even super speedway, aero is a big, big deal. So any kind of damage you get on the body is going to affect the aerodynamics. It's going to affect the amount of downforce you have on these cars. And as you know, these Cup cars have more downforce than, let's say, the Xfinity Series cars. But for drivers today on this short track, it is a short track, but it's not a Martinsville either. You do pick up some good speed on this track. So a little bit of damage could affect your speed somewhat. We'll find out, but definitely you do not want to get into the wall in a way where it's going to affect your toe angle, on your tire or on your wheels, or it's going to affect any kind of suspension, because then you won't be able to turn. And if you can't turn at a place like this, it's not going to be good.
Lights off at a pace car, a restart for Storm Patterson. Green flag back in the air. We work lap 4, and a big slide and a spin for the 24 of Jesse Baker. Caution flag is out, and he takes a huge pile of cars behind with him.
Holy
cow. They were wrecking. They were wrecking right there. It is a fight. It is now a dog fight. Everybody's just throwing down the gloves. They're like, let's go. And
well, it's kind of weird, Jesse. These guys are pacing at about 45 miles per hour coming back to the restart zone. And in iRacing, obviously, man, it's the best motorsport simulation there is. Like Evan mentioned, you can choose what gear you want to start in. So a guy like the driver on the inside, that car number 24 there, Jesse Baker, maybe starts in second gear, maybe, I don't know maybe he's in first gear or something. He spun the tires right there, and everybody behind him, just innocent bystanders. And guys from the back right now must be feeling really good. A guy like Jack Wrights, maybe, who didn't even get a qualifying lap in. Look how many cars are left behind the pace car, Evan. There's maybe 10 left.
Well, yeah, I just mentioned previously that the 75 was somebody who really took advantage of the first incident, right? That time, though, he gets collected in it, and he gets a little bit of damage as he ended up in the outside wall. The big winners there I saw was the 6 car, maybe, of Michael Morley sneaking by on the outside, and then Josh Parker way down to the inside in his number 11 Toyota. He was way down and on the pit road access down there on the inside of turn number 1 to avoid that incident. Kept it relatively clean. He started this race way back in position number 11 and has found himself up a handful of spots as well, but is going to be forced now down to pit road with damage. So these are, the decisions that these drivers have to make. Do they feel like they can make it work with damage? And I feel like that 24 just felt rushed on that start, right? Restart procedure-wise, when the pace car comes down pit road, it is that race leader inside of the front row who dictates when we start. Patterson took off right away. I think the 24 felt like he was a little bit asleep, tried to correct for it, gave it too much.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult. That's definitely difficult for sure. Some of these drivers, so there's some games you can play, especially if you're on that front row. If you start early in the middle of the corner for these restarts, what happens is you put everybody behind you at a disadvantage because now they're all starting somewhere in the center of the corner or before that. And it makes it really difficult to get out on a restart to fire off. And next thing you know, you do have instances like that where you're spinning your tires and you're still turning the wheel. Next thing you know, you're spinning out, you're taking people out. Things like that happen. So the drivers on the front row, they can be nice and wait until maybe the straightaway to restart the race. Or if they start in the center of the corner, which they kind of can, you're kind of putting everybody at a disadvantage.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it was really interesting to see where your race leader, Storm Patterson, started that race. I mean, as soon as that pace car pulled off, like Evan mentioned, man, he was taking off, trying to get away from everybody behind him. Obviously, he's got the best seat in the house and wants to get away from Andy Trupiano. And right now, Trupiano, man, he's on the bubble spot. He would love nothing more than to get by Storm Patterson for the race lead and give himself a little insurance, get off that bubble spot. Obviously, to win this race, it's no extra money, it's no extra anything, but it does get you into that big race tomorrow. So Trupiano has got to be feeling the pressure right now, especially with now Garrett Smithley right behind him there in this restart coming up off turn number 4 this time by.
Smithley plus 9 positions from the start of this race. Rolled off with a grid in 13th. This time he's on the outside of row number 2 and will restart in 4th. Pace car down it in. Patterson going to wait a little bit longer this time in the center of 3 and 4. On the bumper, green flag flies. We're back underway. Clean this time at a run down to 1. Trupiano maintains P2. The battle's going to be for 3rd between the 3 car and the 51.
Now we got a race for the lead. The 63 of Storm Patterson went up by the outside wall off of turn 2. Now he gets clear.
Oh, Smithley! Oh, wow. What a save by Garrett Smithley! Holy will cow, still get the caution, but what a ridiculous save. He was about 80 degrees sideways. I mean, he was pitched all the way into the inside wall, and I think that was contact from behind. Let's just watch.
Yeah, looks like he tries to get in line. He tries to get in line right there in front of the 6 of Michael Morley, and I don't think Morley was going to leave him a whole lot of room there. He realized he had an opportunity to make a move there and get by Smithley for 4th place, and he was not going to let Smithley shut the door on him, and he let him know right there as he sent that 51 car sideways. But luckily, Smithley able to hang on to it, but I think since he drew the caution, if I'm not mistaken, he will be going to the back of the field here.
Savagery. These drivers don't have any forgiveness for any. There's no one's giving. There is no give, and sometimes in racing you have to have give and take. Smithley being an experienced iRacer, having a lot of wins on iRacing, also being an experienced driver in real life. He races in the Cup Series, so he knows how to give and take. And he was probably being a little bit aggressive there, coming over the nose. But the driver behind him was like, "Hey, we're on the same playing field right now. We got the same setups. I'm trying to go after this $10,000. I want that spot, and you're not taking it."
That's the point I was just about to make. I think in any other iRacing race, if it was a hosted session or something a little bit more lax, if someone's next to Garrett Smithley, who these guys on iRacing, I'm sure, watch the NASCAR race and watches him on TV any Sunday, they'll be like, "Hey, I'm going to give him a bit of a break," right? Nobody wants to be that guy that takes out the NASCAR driver. we're racing for $10,000. Michael Morley doesn't care what the name of the number is on the car. That's his position. He was holding it strong, and could have been a big incident as Smithley went sideways. Could have easily have tagged Williams, could have taken out Morley and other drivers. So it was a really good piece of driving to hang on to that race car. But again, as you mentioned, Chase, because he caused the incident, that's going to cost him, of course, that critical track position. He did pull up alongside Morley under the yellow to express this displeasure, but now he's got quite the road to the front. But again, the biggest thing in this is that these caution flag laps are not counting against us. So we've had a handful of incidents at the start. Listen, we expect that. We're racing Cup cars at the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. This is to be expected. But right now, we're only scored on lap 5. So there is some time, I think, to make up for maybe an early race deficit.
Yeah, I definitely would not count out the guys at the back of the field. Josh Parker, Chase Spradlin, who was up there at the front of the field early in this one. We're still on lap 5, but the first couple laps he was up there in around 3rd or 4th place. You can't count out Garrett Smithley after being involved in that accident. We've got 20 laps to go, and so far, Jesse, this place, it looks like a handful, man. These guys are wheeling these cars. They're sideways. They're having trouble getting going on the starts. They're up on the top of the racetrack trying to get through the corner. It looks like a blast to watch. It doesn't look like a blast to race right now. These guys look like they're having a lot of trouble.
Yeah, they're definitely fighting it out. But I mean, that's what you expect right there. When you put a lot of money on the line, people are going to fight. People are going to battle. In any regular just league race or any other official race, people aren't going to be as aggressive. But for this one, it's just everyone's throwing it out, and they're like, "Hey, I'm going after it. I'm trying to get this. I want that money bag." And for the viewers at home, just remember this is a random heat race. Everyone was randomly thrown into this session. There was no favorites. Let's put this person here. Let's put this person there. No, it was random. So. About to get this thing kicked off one more time.
And another late start that time for Patterson. Gets the advantage into one. A lot of space between your top 3 or 4 with the restart. In fact, pretty good throughout the field. You can see all that side by side, but it's outside of the top 10. Patterson still leads, being chased by Tripiano. That number 16 car's got some speed. I think if we get some green flag laps in here, the Lowline Racing driver could challenge. And a yellow from behind. There's a whole host of cars in the fence at a turn 4. One car on its lid at the start-finish line. That's the 75 of Spradlin.
Can we please spool up the replay? Because the 75 of Spradlin had his roof on the roof of another driver, and they were going down the front stretch. You'll see it right here. The red and black 75 on the inside of the track. Right there, gets hit by the blue and yellow car. Now watch right here. Up on the lid, and yeah, look at that right there. That don't happen too often.
Holy moly, that is crazy. But those are the physics right now in iRacing. And yeah, these drivers, they are getting really aggressive. And for the viewers at home watching, everyone's fighting right now for tomorrow. Tomorrow you will have our top 52 drivers who are going to be in the practice, and then you'll go to qualifying, and qualifying 40 will actually make the main event. The 40 that make the main event will probably be the best drivers of all of these sessions. So just remember, we have a mixture of drivers in these sessions. Some of the drivers here are real life racers. They race in real life. They race in the Cup Series, Xfinity Series. Some of them are really good iRacers, and they've been racing on iRacing forever with a lot of skill. You got some people on here who just signed up for iRacing in the last few weeks and don't have a ton of experience. So just remember, there's a wide range of skill in this race. So that's what makes it interesting and fun to watch.
There's your second look. This reminds me of if you're watching the Thunderbirds or the Blue Angels and they're doing their inverted flyby, one looking down on the other. That's the number 39 of David Layoke on the bottom. And that's the number 75, as we mentioned, Chase Spradlin, who no more than 5 minutes ago was a top 4 car I had mentioned with a good chance to maybe be a transfer in this race. And instead, he's getting towed along the road by that number 39 of Machine. The good news, if any, is that he did come to a land on all 4 tires, but he's been on the pit road for some repairs. It has gotten a quick repair to get that car back into working condition. So maybe his night not done quite yet. No change, though, for 1-2 Chase. For all the chaos we've seen everywhere else, Patterson and Tripiano, the consistent ones.
Yeah, I think those two are the guys with no damage that I can see on their race cars right now. Everybody else has narrowly avoided accidents or have been a part of them themselves. So, yeah, it's been a wild one so far in the first 6 laps, but I cannot get over that wreck, man. That was unbelievable between the 75 and the 39 car. That might make the old iRacing top 10 highlight reel. after tonight. So looks like the pace car getting set to go. Hopefully the lights will go out this time by, and then they do, so we will come back to green this time by off of turn number 4. And like we mentioned, 6 laps complete, still 19 laps remain. Up front, though, it's been all Storm Patterson and Andy Trupiano.
And it's been big movers behind. First and second started exactly where they run, but behind them, third, fourth, and fifth in this race were 9th, 7th, and 12th, respectively, on the grid. Even P7 in this one. Sami Yahya in number 7 spot started 20th, so it was a race high plus 13 as it runs at the moment. Pace car down it in. Let's do it again. Patterson in control on the inside. Green flag flies back underway. Can the 3-car challenge for the second spot? Not yet, as Trupiano holds and a spin behind.
Yeah, we got a couple cars piled up here on the front straightaway, and one of them is the 75 of Chase Spradlin. Once again, this is the third accident that that Toyota Camry's been involved in here, and this time it was none of his doing. It looks like a couple cars get together up in front of him. The 03 machine, that looks to be, let's take a look here, the 03 of Dylan D. Thomas. I think he got hit from behind there on the start, and we've already seen here tonight, if you get hit from behind, trying to shift up from second to third on these restarts, that is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, there was a damaged car as well. The 38 machine of Braden Goddard was damaged, and I think there might have been some sort of an accordion effect on the inside that checked things up. 38 was slow, and the 03, I guess, didn't get the memo, drove into the back of him, spun it out, and unfortunately he bounced back up off of the inside retaining wall back into traffic, and was then in the chaos. And I don't think that it's any surprise at all, Jesse, that it's these incidents in the middle of the pack. Of course, we kind of talked about the games that you can play on the front row for these restarts, but certainly there is dividends, not just in running position, but also kind of safety to be up near the front in these restarts. You don't really have those accordions and those checkups and whatnot on row 1, as you would say back 8-9 rows deep.
Yeah, it's definitely harder when you're a few rows back deep, especially in the middle there. I mean, it's just difficult because you're trying to judge the car in front of you, if he goes, if he doesn't. And as you can see, everyone's mixed up right now in the field. You have cars with damage, and usually on iRacing, when you have damage, and especially when you're missing your front bumper, that could slow the car down. That means sometimes, hey, your motor might not be functioning as well as it could be. So because of that, on these restarts, the driver behind you might feel like, hey, like you're not going. Or, you know, sometimes if you're a driver with a car that's damaged and you're in front of somebody else, you're like, it's just really screwing up everyone behind you. So that can also cause some issues. That can cause some spins and some wrecks and things like that. So damaged cars, them getting mixed up in the field, that is causing some of the chaos too. It's not just skill, it's sometimes just damage.
And there's something else, Chase. You know, these drivers are in a bit of a dilemma because there's some drivers with damage. Look from high above. You could even see from there that the nose is missing on the number 42 machine of Tim Pinion. He could come down to the pit lane and get the quick repair, right? That's a very exclusively sim racing thing that I'm sure a lot of drivers would love to have in the real world, where you just come down and basically you get a brand new race car. You could do that. He could get a brand new number 42 Chevy, but he would go from probably 6th position down to 24th. There he is there. So a lot of these drivers as well. Wayne, is the damage bad enough to make me come down pit road? I'll get a new car, but in turn would give up a ton of track position.
Yeah, and it looks like unlimited fast repairs here in this race. So the 75 of Chase Spradlin, who's, as I mentioned earlier, been involved in multiple cautions here tonight. Brand new Toyota Camry. He's ready to rip back onto the speedway and go at it once again. So I don't think you can count anybody out of this race yet. With 7 laps complete, I would have to say that all 24 drivers still on the speedway have as good of a shot as anybody with the circumstances we've seen so far in this one there, Jesse.
Yeah, that's most definitely. Everybody has a shot right now, especially when caution laps aren't counting. So if right now normally caution laps were counting, we would probably be done here pretty soon, but the caution laps don't count. So everyone does have a shot. If you're in 10th, 15th, you still have a shot of getting up front. We'll see how this goes.
For the first time tonight, we will restart single file at a turn number 4. Patterson still in control as we take lap number 8 at the front of the field. A little bit of jousting going on from 6th on back, but your top 4 single file.
Yeah, really the top 4 have checked out in this one. As you see, the number 63 car Storm Patterson coming off turn 4. We got one around on the backstretch, it looks like. I believe the 92 machine of Sami Yahya gets into looks like maybe the 42 machine. Nope, he just comes off the corner, gets a little bit loose in that 92, and hits the inside wall very hard, tears the front end off, and brings out the yellow. He was running 7th at the time. But I want to give out a shout out here to old Danny May, 26th to 9th place right now in the 370 car. So Danny May started dead last, is up to 9th.
Yeah,
and that's just by staying clean, right? I mean, that goes to show you, I'm sure it applies, Jesse, to short track racing and big track racing as well, but, you know, you can be fast, but if you're going to spin it on the race start, or if you're going to fence yourself over driving the race car, because in a 25-lap race, I don't know if we're that concerned about saving tires or taking it easy on the equipment, but so at least in this context, just being smarter and more consistent like that can really be beneficial to you.
Yeah, I mean, the saying goes, you know, in order to finish first, you must first finish. And the drivers up front understand that. Some of the guys in the back, I don't know if they completely understand that. But, yeah, you got to finish clean. I mean, that's the only way. I mean, you got to stay clean, keep your nose clean. You got to be careful. Sometimes it's not worth taking the position. Not every position is worth going and getting at that particular moment. It's all about timing. It's all about being smart. Understand the situation in the race. Understand where you're at. We're not even halfway through the race. So sometimes aggressiveness might not pay off right now. Just be patient, settle down, and just remember, in order to finish first, you must first finish.
Yeah, great point there, Jesse, is we work ourselves under caution right now. And, you know, the thing that these drivers might also be struggling with there, Evan, is they didn't get this set up till, you know, maybe an hour and a half ago. They had about an hour or so to practice and try and get used to this setup. But maybe the track conditions that they were practicing on, maybe the weather was a little bit different, and we see guys spinning out by themselves coming off the corner. That might just be a lack of practice, maybe a lack of preparation here. And, you know, I kind of like it like that. I like how there's kind of a surprise effect. These guys don't really know what they're getting into as far as the setup goes, and it kind of puts everybody on an equal playing field. But then it kind of leads to accidents like this when guys are spinning off the corner by themselves and give us a couple cautions. But I think tomorrow night, when we get the 52 best guys in one race, you know, we qualify top 40, go into the 150 lapper. But I think once we get those top 40, it's going to be a heck of a show.
And as well, there's no way to practice with that full field, right? I'm sure there were some busy points in the practice session, but you didn't have all 25 drivers, you know, stacked up and ready for a restart at any point there. So even if you are spinning on your own, these drivers could be trying to, you know, maybe work a different line if they feel like they're not better than the car in front of them. In the case of the race leaders, you could have somebody like Tripiano trying to do the opposite of what Patterson's doing, trying to find some speed. When you're doing that, but you're checking your side mirrors, you're looking into the rear view mirror, you're trying to block, you're trying to protect for positions. There is no way to prepare for that until you get in the field, and it's tough enough with, you know, 24, but of course when we get to the 40 that are going to be in the main event tomorrow night, even more so, that managing traffic and managing a 150-lap feature race going to be far more critical. So pace car back off it in. Patterson going to come this time by to take the green flag for lap number 9. So far untouchable up front.
As he leads this field back into turn number 1, Storm Patterson through the middle of the speedway. We've seen him throughout this entire race. Look at that cut down off the banking, down to the bottom of the racetrack. Caution comes back out. We've got one turned looking the wrong direction on the front stretch. Looks like the car number 1 of Trenton Embry. He gets it spun back around in that Harley-Davidson Camaro. He gets back going, but the yellow once again on the speedway.
And
so
it
one of the
looked
things,
like a bit of a similar thing than what we saw early. I just want to see right there on the second look, he gets those left side tires below the yellow line, and obviously the only way to avoid that, Jesse, to not do it in the first place, because once you get that thing off kilter from the 18 degrees of banking, but then with the left sides down on the flat of the apron, it instantly upsets the balance of that race car. And I think he may have had some help from behind, but that car was all but gone once he did clip that apron there trying to get back into the gas.
Yeah, sometimes the apron can be your friend. Sometimes it can't. Yeah, I mean, when you're on an oval track, you have to stay, you know, on the regular racing surface, and you can use some parts of the track to help you turn. If you get down below the yellow line, at some tracks it does help you turn a little bit because it gets the car a little bit off balance. It, you know, gets a little bit loose, you know, or sometimes it can tighten you up depending on where you're at. So, yeah, you definitely don't want to use the whole entire track, even though you're sometimes they say if you pay to use the whole track, so use the whole track. Well, not in this instance. No one paid to be here unless you're paying for your iRacing subscription.
Looking to walk away out of this event in the money. Again, if you're just joining us, this is qualifying night number 1 of the eRacing Association 2020 Omega Cup Winterbowl. There are more than 600 drivers currently in the sim racing and 26 different heat races. Only the top 2 of all of them will advance to tomorrow's main event. We will join you tomorrow night back here on RaceSpot TV, in which we will see 52 cars compete for the top 40 in qualifying. They'll go to a 150-lap main event to race for $10,000 in prizes. Top prize of all of them, $7,500 for the race winner with that one. So certainly a lot on the line. And to be honest, Chase, I feel like that has to be at least a percentage of it, right? Jesse mentioned this earlier, but for many of them, probably the biggest purse they've ever raced for on the sim, if ever in general. And nerves are definitely a thing here, even though it's sim racing.
You know, I've commentated quite a few big races, especially in the dirt world of iRacing, and I've never seen a purse this big for a single race. I've seen, $10,000 championship after a 10 or a 12 race season, but for one night, 150 laps, some guy's going to leave tomorrow night with $7,500. That is absolutely unbelievable. I wish I would have heard about this. I would have maybe even ran the race, and that would have been, I probably would have wrecked and been in this one maybe, at the back of the field, but I still would have at least tried it. But you know what, the other thing I like about this series here, Evan, is the schedule. Next year they plan on doing more of these races, and what they've got set up, Daytona International Speedway, Circuit of the Americas, and Bristol are the 3 other tracks that are on the calendar. And it's really cool because all of those tracks require different skill sets, and I bet you will see, especially at Circuit of the Americas, maybe some guys that are really, really good road course racers that maybe don't run these big, heavy stock cars might come out of the woodworks for that one to try and steal that $7,500 prize.
We talked about the blend of maybe short track racers on the sim and the cup car drivers coming together for this one. It'll be fun to see how those events play out in the new year. Pace car off once more. Again, same procedure for Patterson. He's gone earlier, he's gone later. This time, quick on the trigger. Green flag flies. We're back underway, and the single file start space out the leaders, but a spin from behind. It's Joe Gwilt. He was a top 10 car, but ended up nose first into the fence. And I think he lost that one all on his own, coming out of 4 to the green flag.
Yeah,
Patience.
Gwilt right here. You'll see it on the replay. Just coming up through the gears, gets off the banking, and, just spins her down into the infield wall. And you see tears off that front bumper and exposes the radiator there. So, and once again, my boy Danny May is up to 8th place now, guys, from 26th. All he's got to do is pass 6 more cars, man, and he's in the big show tomorrow. That old 370 car, keeping the nose clean and making his way to the front of the field. I'm a fan of his, that's for sure.
He was the only one who didn't qualify. Everybody else felt like qualifying was imperative. Maybe somebody clued Danny in on the key just to stay back, stay out of trouble, and Jesse, to your point, have some patience. Yes, it's a 25-lap sprint. But you still need to get the car to the end of this race. And I'll never say that a quick yellow is a good thing. There's another second look for the grandstands. But I do want to tie right back into the point that Chase was making before that. And, this isn't just a one-off event for this Winterbowl. You guys in the eRacing Association have several other events planned for 2021. Just kind of tell everybody about the ideas and how you came up with the car track combos and really kind of the mission statement of what you guys are trying to do with this.
Yeah, so we definitely have, some more events coming up in 2021. And as you mentioned, we have the road course event at COTA, and that one should be fun. You should see a lot of great drivers coming out from that. Some drivers who don't normally run these big, heavy stock cars, guys who, run other series. And it should be interesting to see them going. But for those who are interested in getting into this series and racing for money and racing for big prizes, make sure they follow eRacing Association on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Go to the website. The website is eragaming.gg. Head to the website, sign up for our email list so you can stay connected. And we're putting on these events. We're giving out money. We're giving out other prizes. There's a lot of great stuff. So there's opportunity to jump into something and win. And for us, our thought in making this league and making these series of events was really to give people an opportunity to almost be a professional in sim racing. And there's other series out there. There's other leagues that are, the different pro series of iRacing and things like that. But we wanted to create another opportunity for people where people could, just like how NASCAR began a long time ago, where you could just start off in your garage, get something going, bring a car to the track and go race, run what you brung. And that's what we're trying to really get going here, where the average person can have the the opportunity to basically make some type of money.
And I'm thinking maybe someday, Jesse, if a guy's able to win maybe 2 of these races or 3 and maybe do it all on the oval tracks, maybe winning that kind of money, that could lead him to maybe buying himself a real-life race car and getting out there on the real track. That's what I think is so cool about this series. If a guy can win 2 of these things and make 15 grand, go out there and buy himself a legend car or, maybe another type of smaller pavement oval or track race car. I think that is super cool, and that's one of the things that I'm most excited to see what happens, who the winners are at the end of these 4 races and see what they do with that money. Some of those guys might just throw it in the bank or maybe pay off a credit card payment or do whatever the heck they want with it, but I think it'd be awesome to see somebody maybe grab themselves a real-life race car and make it happen there, Evan.
Well, we've seen a lot of that, the crossover from real-life drivers racing on to sim to people getting introduced to motorsports on the iRacing service, especially at a young age. You're talking about some drivers as young as 13 in this week's racing. Green flag, though, back underway once more. And throughout the field, as everybody tries to get clean and get a lap under themselves, right? Try to get a little bit of a rhythm, if you will. Kind of tough to be perfect on so many restarts to hit your marks if you're spending time pacing. So it could lead to some mistakes for the leaders. But once more, those top 4 seem to be better than the rest, and they pull an advantage into 1 and 2. But Patterson is under fire right now, not just by Tripiano's second, but Williams lurking in third.
Yeah, this is good stuff right here. Second on back, 4 cars under a blanket going for the top 2 spots. Right now it is Trupiano with second, but the 3 car of Jacob Williams putting all sorts of pressure. Oh, he gets into the back of him right there. Moves him out of the way. I talked about it earlier. The old chrome horn might come out and be used here tonight, and Jacob Williams just shoved the 16 of Trupiano right out of the way. Now he's sideways in the corner.
He's loose, and does he save it? Oh, he does not.
Oh, wow. And he got tagged. Josh Parker gets into him. Caution flag is out. And from the high to the low, Williams had just executed what was really a textbook bump and run, and I'm certain Trupiano's not going to feel the same way, but moved him out of the way, got the spot, had his sights set on the race leader. Let's watch both. Here's the touch in the 1, doesn't spin him, just moves him, and then down in turn number 3 just gives it too much.
And I'm telling you, that was the perfect way to say it right there, Evan. That was a textbook bump and run right there, but I think the karma caught up to him really quickly on the back straightaway right there. Instant karma, spins it around, and then Josh Parker will finish him off and tag the rear end and probably knock the rear end out of that back of that race car there. So, man, that was going to be fun stuff, I think, if that 3 car held on to it. There was 3 cars right there behind Storm Patterson that I think all were going to have a great shot at finishing in that second spot. But now we move. It looks like Michael Morley, who his car has seen some better days there, Jesse, and he's pretty beat up, but right now in second, keeping his car as clean as he can, staying out of these accidents, and he was the biggest benefactor out of that one when those 2 guys got together.
Yeah, it is so easy to overdrive it into these corners. I'm looking at just replays and watching cars going into a corner. It's a track where even though it's a short track, there's actually quite a bit of banking here at this track. It's not like a Bristol for sure. It's not like a Dover, but there's a lot of banking here, and it is so easy to overdrive it. I mean, you could miss your mark. There's hardly a place where you can really see marks. Some tracks have cones, some tracks have different things on the track that you can actually on the surface of the track that you can look at and use it as a mark. But here, there's really nothing. So people throw it in the corner, and that's why you see these guys getting sideways. But a lot of these drivers have a lot of experience on iRacing, and they have a lot of good car control. So car control is what's saving some of these guys. But if you get a little bit loose in the corner and someone helps you out, it's not going to be your day, at least in that corner.
No doubt about it. And, Evan, I want to point out the 11 car of Josh Parker, he did get into the spinning car there in that last caution, and he did not take that trip down to the pit road to get that quick fix. You talked about it earlier. When does my car have too much damage? When does it not, need to go to the pit area? And I think Josh Parker at this point we are over the halfway mark. I think he's saying, you know what, man, I got to throw the kitchen sink at this thing and pray for the best here. He's running in 6th at the moment, but there was a lot of damage to the front and rear of that Interstate Batteries Toyota.
And Josh Parker's got a lot of experience in virtual racing, not only Is he a past iRacing Pro champion, but also drives for Joe Gibbs Racing in the eNASCAR Heat Pro League. So he has competed in both of the eNASCAR championships. We talk about the simulation of iRacing here on the PC, also on that more arcade-style championship for the other arm of eNASCAR with the Heat Pro League on consoles. So he has done both and is a esports pro driver for Joe Gibbs Racing. That explains the Interstate Batteries paint scheme on board that number 11 machine. So that's just another level of the different backgrounds and experiences amongst the drivers in the field for this one. But you are right past halfway. Next time by, going to come into the restart to take lap number 15. It'll be 11 laps to go at that point. But again, the yellows do not count against our total. Saw a long, good green flag run the last time through. And Michael Morley was side by side with Andy Trupiano at the moment of yellow, but he was scored in front. So it will be the 6 car in second for this restart. Trupiano at a race low P3, now out of a transfer spot.
Let's see what he can do here. If he can get back by the 6 of Michael Morley. A great start up front for your race leader, Storm Patterson. He gets away from the 6 of Michael Morley. Morley goes into turn number 1 on the bottom. Trupiano a lane above him as they work down the back straightaway. Trupiano searching around, trying to find some grip. But right now, these guys need to get a couple laps under them there, Evan, and get some heat in those tires and see what their cars can do. But that's not going to happen because the caution's back out.
And it is again from behind the race leaders as he's slow on the back straightaway. The number 37 car of Gwilt, and I think it was with him as well. We saw a spin a little bit earlier, but he was in a top 10 position just on his own, lost it coming to the restart. There was some contact up.
Somebody got
and the 39
turned.
were into each other, and then I don't know if he kind of swerved to the apron to get some space, but yeah, they were all up into the fence. He nicked the apron and spun it out, and of course, for his luck, right, the other guys were the runs wrecking first, but he spins and got tagged on the inside wall, and it has not been a good night for him since he was in that top 10 spot.
And clearly, as Jesse mentioned earlier, the apron not your friend here tonight at Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. We've seen every guy that gets that left front or maybe both those left side tires down below that yellow line, and it sends them spinning. No grip down there. It kind of upsets the weight of the car, it seems like, and those things just spin out super quick, especially, as I mentioned there, without getting the heat in those tires. That is so important when trying to get around the racetrack without spinning or getting sideways or getting loose or anything like that. So definitely taking some notes for tomorrow night's race. We don't want anybody on the apron because clearly that's not the place to be there, Jesse.
Yeah, and the thing for tomorrow's race that some of the viewers got to remember is it's going to be manual cautions tomorrow. So right now it's pretty much automated cautions by iRacing and the software in our system. But for tomorrow, it's going to be manual cautions. So some of the spins that you're seeing right now that might be a little bit more back in the field that aren't really affecting more than one driver, will a caution be thrown out? Not always. So you might see a lot more good runs. And, the overall caliber of the drivers tomorrow who actually make the main event will probably be the best, cream of the crop. So adding that together and then manual cautions, it should be interesting for some longer runs, and it'll be interesting to see how these tires, wear and fall off or stay constant throughout the race.
And I think one of the new, things they've done in iRacing there, Evan, I'm not sure if that's introduced in this series, but I think it might be, is that new, limited tire sets. And 150 laps at a place like this, I feel like the surface is very abrasive. With limited tire sets, these guys are going to be having a handful come tomorrow night after 150 laps.
Yeah, and keeping the equipment in one piece over the course of that, working on the tires and try to make it last long, right? Also wanted to mention, you talk about looking into tomorrow's race and maybe being a higher caliber of field or strength of field if you're familiar with sim racing terms. I mean, that's quite literally if we have the number that we think, up to 650 different drivers competing tonight to get into tomorrow's main event. When you whittle that down to 40 for the main event, that's only about the top 6% that actually get there, right? So you're looking at a very high class of drivers when you're talking about the top 6% to get to that. I know we mentioned a couple of times already tonight that only paying out 2 spots, right, to get to the main event in a field of 26 cars in this instance is super cutthroat, and you have to perform if you want to be up there. And that's just one challenge, right, is getting into the show. Then once you get there, you're going to have to beat cars who all ran as good, if not better, as you in their respective heats. So that's certainly going to be a challenge. Back it away, though, up front for the 63 of Patterson. He's good. This battle for second, though, going to be the one to watch. Morley's got it. Can Trupiano reel him back in? They're spaced out for the moment in turn 3.
Yeah, the question is, can the 16 of Trupiano get back to second where he started this race at and ran for a majority of this event? But Michael Morley, torn up race car and all, is making it work, and looks like he might actually be keeping pace a little bit here with our race leader, Storm Patterson. Last time by, Morley was the fastest driver in the top 3, so he might not be done yet, and Patterson might be in trouble here because Trupiano's keeping pace with Morley, but the yellow is out and the pace car is back on the racetrack.
More carnage. More carnage. Oh, man, they're fighting.
4. I'm trying to find the car. It's Dylan Thomas, and it looks like he's doing burnouts down there, just trying to get the car straighted. And it was not unassisted. You'll see these cars door bang. Check this out, the 38 machine up the road, and they just come into each other. That's another tough one, Jesse, because I think in that case, Thomas on the bottom is probably expecting that 38 machine of Goddard to be further up the road, right, to kind of blend all the way back out and swing wide to the fence on exit, and that's why it kind of looks like he just went up the hill and into him, and that's basically just two cars not really maybe being aware of where the other driver was or giving a bit of extra space, and they both went for the same real estate at a 2. I don't think they were, running over each other for 13th and 14th. They just kind of ended up in the same spot.
Yeah, and that will happen very quickly, I feel like, at this racetrack, right, Jesse?
Oh yeah, that's for sure. And those out there, yeah, remember, I mean, there's the spotters on iRacing. I mean, they're pretty good for the most part, but some of these drivers have actually brought their own personal real life spotters into the race, and sometimes they're good and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they let them know exactly what's going on, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're sleeping up in the spotters tower, but things like that can happen. At the end of the day, the driver is the one driving the race car. Nobody else is driving it for him. He or she has to have the most amount of awareness on the track. They have to understand where people are at. And honestly, I feel like it's a little bit easier to see around in an iRacing vehicle than it is in real life. But yeah, they got to have awareness on track, understand situational awareness. That is key.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you see those guys just come together off of turn number 2, kind of a simple racing deal there. And these cars are, man, once you make contact, I've had experience with these cars in the past. They're just so hard to hang on to once you break traction. And, that's exactly what happened right there with those two guys. And, what I took from that with both those guys, we saw the front end view. They were coming right at us, and both of them were missing the front bumper. So it's been a rough night there for, Dylan Thomas and Braden Goddard, but they're still trucking along, trying to make things happen here. You never know what can happen. We've still got 8 laps to go, and if those 8 laps have been anything like we've seen so far tonight, I would definitely not count them out of this one quite yet.
First driver of this race has gone to the garage. Trenton Embry is out of it, so 23 drivers still in it, and Ronald Brummer has been trapped a lap down for the entirety of this one because we are not counting the caution laps. There is no lucky dog in place, so he's a lap down. He is stuck a lap down and would have to do it the old school way of passing everybody if he wanted to get back onto the lead lap in this one. So unfortunately, if you have a big issue like that in the race, which forces you down pit road or you have to take a tow and it costs you a lap, at least in this heat format tonight, put you in a position where you're kind of stuck where you are. So Brummer's had a rough night as well. 22 other cars, though, still on the lead lap, still led by Storm Patterson. He has led every single lap of this race thus far, this time by 8 laps away from transferring to tomorrow.
And Trupiano gets a fantastic start there, back in the 3rd spot. He was all over Morley going into turn number 1, but as we saw in that last little green flag run, it looked like Morley was the car to beat inside the top 3. He was running the fastest lap times as he's trying to track down Storm Patterson. The yellow's out again, and it looks like this time on the back stretch, that's going to hurt tomorrow.
Great thing for these sim racers is that, hey, it's not real life. So if you do wreck, you know what? Hey, at least you're not going to feel it too much at all. Maybe your pride might be hurt, but hey, at least physically you'll be all right. But that's why sim racing is cool. There's always that reset button. You can go try things. You can go compete. You can run hard, and at least it's not going to hurt your wallet, or you physically. But that looked like a crazy wreck right there, and that's a lot of damage. That's going to affect those race cars a lot.
That's a
And
rank you only want to be in on the sim, I think. Those two guys getting together in turn number 2. And, at least in a real race car, Jesse, there's so many things standardized, right? You kind of have your seat and your harness, and you have very little ability to a certain degree to kind of customize things. Whereas in sim racing, obviously you're not in a race car that's at times more than 100 degrees, right? And have all the equipment on it. Of course, the sensation and maybe the fear, maybe a little bit of doing, 150 plus miles an hour, but at least in sim racing, you do have that comfortability, which allows these drivers to get creative, right? So if you are a entry-level sim racer, you can have a relatively basic setup at home, just your standard desktop computer, a monitor, and a wheel for a couple $100, and you're ready to rock. You don't need the triple monitors, but you can advance to that. A lot of drivers using VR as well, right? Motion rigs, and the sky is the limit really when you want, but not just the equipment, but how you drive, right? I know the age-old sim racing debate is shoes or not, barefoot or socks, right? Not little things that you can do in real life, but on the sim, you can kind of tailor your sim racing experience to fit you the best.
Yeah, that's for sure. You can tailor it to fit you the best. And yeah, you don't have to have a ton of money. That barrier of entry into sim racing is a lot less than it is for real life racing. Real life racing, to go get a race car or go rent a ride, go pay for a ride, buy a ride, whatever it is, in real life, it can be a lot of money. I mean, if you're racing in the truck series or Xfinity series or something, it could cost anywhere from 30 grand all the way up to 200 plus grand for a race, one race. But in sim racing, you don't have to spend that kind of money. For just a few $100s, you can have a wheel, pedals, shifter, and use your little office chair in your office, and use a screen that you already have at home, a nice computer, and then you're good. Or you can spend, $1,000. You can spend $2,000. Some people got rigs for $10,000 to $15,000. It just depends how much you want to invest into it. But understand that once you invest whatever money you do, that you have this rig forever, and these things last for a long time. I mean, the first thing that's probably going to go bad might be, I don't even know, maybe your computer after like 5-6 years if it's an old one. But yeah, the barrier of entry is definitely not as high as real life racing, which gives people the opportunity to actually come and compete in something that's very similar to real life racing.
Yeah, and what you guys mentioned there is, you got the $1,000 rigs, the $10,000, the $300 rigs. It don't matter how much your rig is. It doesn't matter because everybody's on the same playing field. I have a Logitech Driving Force GT sitting here. That's probably a 10-year-old wheel. I'm not saying I'm the best there ever was, Evan, but I still, from time to time, find myself in victory lane here on iRacing.com. So it don't really matter how good your stuff is. It just matters how good of a driver you are on the sim. As the pace car pulls off once again, 7 laps to go. It's Patterson, Morley, Trupiano, Hale, and Parker, the top 5 as they come back to green.
And looks like a pair of battles down into 1. So Patterson clear for the lead. They fight for 2nd and 3rd, and then maybe 4th and 5th. A slow off at 2 is Zachary Hale. Parker to the outside in the 11. Give him the spot. He now up to position number 4. So that move by Parker sets his sights on the next duo, where Morley still has P2, but Trupiano really wants it back.
And I don't think Josh Parker's out of this thing yet. His car might be hanging on by a thread. I mean, the front bumper on that thing is absolutely tore up, but he is not done yet. And now the race for the lead is starting to get good there. The 63 of Patterson made a slight mistake in the center of 3 and 4, and Morley trying to track him down here. 4 laps to go, and Morley is the best car, it looks like, in the top 3. As the caution's out again, which is going to set us up with a 3 or 4 lap dash to end this thing.
Inside the final 5 for sure. It's Jesse Baker who spins towards the back. And we saw that great battle, I think it was for 5 and 6 maybe, between Zachary Hale and Tim Pinion. But there was even more battling going on outside of the top 10. Look at this gaggle. About 4 rows deep of side-by-side, and as they came down the back straightaway, you'll see the challenge here, the 7 car to the inside, and it was the 24 there, a Baker, who got a little bit loose, came down, then snapped it up the hill, and that triggered the caution flag. So all those drivers were really fighting for a lot inside of the top 10, and then he struggled to get that one going. Baker, somebody else who's been in a handful of incidents tonight, and I think, there's several drivers. We talk about Parker, who was involved in an incident. You say not out of it. I think P4 is a great spot for him. The last green flag lap before the yellow, he was the fastest car on track. So it goes to show that one incident doesn't take you out of things entirely. But, certainly for somebody like Baker, maybe one too many and a rough night.
Well, we have now found ourselves here within 5 laps to go there, Jesse, and How aggressive do these? It seems like, in my opinion, the top 4 guys right now. You got Patterson, you got Morley, Trupiano, and Parker. How aggressive are these guys going to get here with 4 laps to go? When that white flag comes out, I am very interested to see who is not only running in second, but who's running in third, and what kind of maneuver they make here once that white flag comes out, because to put yourself in the show is, honestly, I feel like just to be in that 40-car show tomorrow night is an accomplishment in and of itself. I mean, to be in the top 40 out of 650, that is absolutely incredible. So I'm really interested to see what happens here these last 4 laps, Jesse.
These drivers are definitely going to get very aggressive here in these last few laps, and their spotters are all going to tell them one thing: hey, driver, it's time to get up on that wheel and go. There's not going to be any hold bar. No one's going to be holding back at all. Everyone's going to be fighting for those top 2 spots and maybe even trying to win. I don't see the person in the second spot, just letting off for the guy at first. He's like, hey, us 2 are going to make it. No, he's going to fight for that win. People, they want that recognition. They want to show, hey, I'm the man or the woman. I can come out here. I can compete. I can beat the whole field. I can be the best. And that's what's going to happen when you watch these top 5. Really, for these next few laps, it's going to get crazy. But we'll see who wins. I don't know. The 63 car has been showing a lot of speed, and I think he's going to take it.
We talked about getting the target off your back, and Trupiano had that for much of the start. So I think as long as Patterson can get a couple of car lengths, I don't think you would see somebody like a Morley, bump and run the leader. He is there for the target in second, and would Trupiano do the same to the 6 maybe, right? For the battle between third and second, because only those top 2 make the show. If the 6 and the 16 come together, there's that bright green number 11 machine of Josh Parker there to pick up the pieces. So as long as you're in the top 5, even top 10 at this point in the race, I think you still have a chance, especially if we get to the white flag and then something happens. At that point, there will be no caution. This race will go to the end. So if the leaders get together, it could pay to be that second or third or fourth car in line to try to pick up the pieces. This time, though, the number is going to be 4 laps to go for the virtual Nashville Fairground Speedway. Storm Patterson trying to bookend a perfect qualifying night and a huge leap on the restart.
Holy cow, he jumped out to the lead big time. 5 car lengths at least over the 6 car of Michael Morley. Josh Parker right there in the back pocket of the 16 and Andy Trupiano as they work down the backstretch. Cautions out again.
And they're wrecking.
3 to go. The caution's out. It looks like this time for Sammy Yaha on the 92 car. This is not the first time we've seen this 92 go around, but it looks like this time he gets a little bit of a door from the 39 machine from David Lyock. And there was actually 2 incidents, another one in front of them with Andrew Harris. So a couple of different things happened, maybe a chain reaction.
Yaya was in the wall, and as we were watching that, you could see smoke up the road as the 5 got tagged, as you mentioned. So that was Andrew Harris who had an incident. So I don't really know exactly which one caused the caution. Here's that one, and that's Garrett Smithley on the inside, overdriving 1 and sending the 5 car around, but in contact behind as well. So it goes to prove to you that it's not just the younger sim racers or the lesser experienced sim racers. You got guys like Garrett involved in some of those incidents. You got a lot of fast drivers like Parker, like some of the other guys who have come up and down through the field that find trouble. It is not exclusive to what your name is. All these drivers fighting, as we mentioned earlier tonight, on a totally even playing field with a fixed setup. No entry fee to kind of bar drivers from entering. So all with an equal chance to get in to tomorrow's $10,000 main event. So with a quick yellow there, it burns a single lap. So instead of 4 to go, the next restart, we'll see 3 laps to go. And should mention, based on that note, Chase, if necessary, if we get a yellow, late in this one, I suppose we could have an attempt at an overtime restart if a caution comes out at the 1 lap to go mark just before that. So we'll see if that comes into a play or not. But again, if we get to the white, this race is official.
I think we mentioned it several times tonight that you're never out of it if you were involved in an accident. But if memory serves me correctly, the 7 car of Kyle Sosnowski I'm pretty sure he brought out the first caution back there in that purple number 7 machine, and he is now back up to P7. So he started this race off rough, and he probably thought he was out of it, but he did not leave the server. He stayed in it. He went to the pits, got his car fixed up, and now 5 spots out of a lock-in spot for tomorrow night's main event. And Sosnowski, I think, his car looks like it's in pretty good shape, and with how Trupiano and Morley have been, they've kind of been a little bit sketchy, I feel like, on these last couple green flag runs, getting pretty close to each other and making some contact and things like that. I don't think Sosnowski, even though he brought out the first yellow, he could maybe sneak in there and find himself in the top 2 by the end of this thing.
So much on these drivers' minds tonight. I mean, they're all thinking, hey, I'm eyes on the prize. Are we going to make it? Are we going to make it to the end? Am I going to make it to the end? Can I finish this race? Can I finish in the top 2? It is exciting, and these are just small little shootouts pretty much throughout the race. We knew it wasn't going to have any long green flag runs, but it was going to be small little shootouts, and these guys are fighting it out. They're battling it out. The guys up front somewhat staying clean, but I don't think it's going to last for long.
And a lot of time under yellow to run over these scenarios in your head. What do I do on this next restart? And maybe a little bit too much time to think that you get your nerves up once more late in this one. This time, 3 laps to go from Nashville. It's another great start, though, for Storm Patterson. He's gone in the run down to turn number 1. Morley contested by Trupiano. Everybody else good so far in 1 and 2.
And now we got one backed into the fence. It is the 38 car of Braden Goddard. Caution lights come back on. We'll see what happens here to the 38 machine, who's been involved in a couple of accidents here tonight. But this time, it looks like he gets some help from the 58. Oh, my. Jess Chambers gets into the right rear quarter panel of the 38 car and just absolutely turns him head on into the turn number 1 wall there.
It just drove through him in a battle for P18, Jesse. I guess, even though the top 2 is the ultimate objective here, I suppose, some of the drivers towards the mid and back of the field have kind of accepted, at least at this point in the race, right? Okay, I don't think it's going to happen for me. Maybe a little bit earlier on, they feel like they had a better chance, but that doesn't mean just because they're not going to finish 1 or 2 that they don't want to fight for it. I think that battle right there proves that even for 18th, nobody wants to get beat by somebody else.
Well, that's the thing with racing right there. There's a battle on pretty much every position on the track. There's battles going on all over the place. Just because you're not in first or second or third doesn't mean you don't have the right to battle. You can battle all the way to the back of the field in 25th, 26th, 30th, 40th, wherever you're at. There's battles going on. So, don't count yourself out. A lot of things can happen. The whole field could wreck out pretty much right now on this next restart. And if you were maybe sitting in 15th, now you're up to 5th. Now you have a real shot. So you never count yourself out. Stay in it. Battle out. Now, you got to be smart, too. You don't want to be taking people out in the back of the field. But at the same time, too, you have every right to fight for position no matter what spot you're in. Don't let anybody tell you anything different. You can fight for your position. You're allowed to be on the track. You have every right throughout the whole race. So that's what people are doing.
And Evan, you kind of mentioned it there a couple cautions ago about the 63 car Storm Patterson, our race leader, man. He has done everything he can to try a different restart every single time. But Michael Morley has started behind him here quite a few times now, and you got to think that Patterson might be running out of ideas here, man, and Morley's maybe been kind of paying attention to when he's going. So Morley, it seems like every restart we have, he gets a little bit better and a little bit closer heading back into turn 1. So, and we saw Morley earlier, man, making some aggressive moves, so I don't think he's going to settle for second. I don't think he wants to be in second on the white flag lap. Obviously, you'd rather be leading, but to be second on the white flag lap with as much money and all the stuff that's going on that's on the line here, second is definitely not the place I would want to be with a guy like Andy Trupiano, Josh Parker, Zach Hale, and some others behind me.
Definitely, and I think that, with all the looks that Morley and Trupiano earlier in this race when he was in second have got at Storm Patterson's restart procedure, he's still been very good. In fact, I think his best 2 restarts have been the last 2, where he's gotten some 6-7 car lengths in the run down to turn number 1. Now, granted, the single file restart does help a little bit because you don't have to worry about a car diving it onto the inside. Patterson has been good if you're Morley, do you take that risk of trying to anticipate the start, going with the 63 and possibly, running into the back of him and ruining your own restart? How bad do you need to get away from Andy Trupiano? Because that battle for second and third between the 6 and the 16, I think, has been the best battle on track all night. They are so even on speed, and only one of those two, in theory, can make it into tomorrow's main event. This time by, going to be 2 laps to go for Nashville to get to the white flag and make this one official. Patterson gone. They touch for second. 2 laps to go.
Trupiano, another good start. Once again, only a car length behind the 6 of Morley. Then it's Josh Parker right on the back bumper of the 16 car. Trupiano coming through 3 and 4 this time by, and the white flag will wave if we can get to the start finish line. Contact for third. Parker the 16 of Trupiano, and we are not going to end this one yet, Evan.
Oh,
So close.
Oh,
they were
gosh.
in turn 4. But it was Parker driving in hard, challenging Trupiano for the number 3 position. Got him in the left rear quarter panel. He broke sideways, caught that car, and this race will go to overtime. We will head to green-white checkered attempt number 1. And what a tough break for Trupiano. Obviously, Parker at that point thinking, Jesse, they're getting to the white flag. He wants to get at least one more spot right away, so maybe he could challenge Morley. And what a bad way for Andy Trupiano's night to be done after he was so good for so much of this race.
In racing, you have the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows, and I know he's feeling the lowest of the lows right now. So much on the line, but fighting for that position. But this is what we wanted to see. We wanted to see that battle. We wanted to see people fight, because the prize money for this tournament, the prize money for these events, these next couple of days, I mean, this could, for some people, change their year. We've had such a crazy year with the pandemic going on. A lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people have been furloughed. A lot of people have not had a lot of opportunities this year to do a lot of things, and a lot of people are going through a lot. So with this, and people having a chance to go win this type of money, I mean, that could make someone's year, maybe even change their life. You never know what people are going through. So it's cool to see everyone battling here, and it's going to be probably a super emotional experience to see the winner of the main event tomorrow. But first, you got to get to the main event, and you got to get past these next couple laps. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, Chase, we think this is stressful enough, right? I mean, these drivers are, I'm sure they're sweating and their heartbeat is racing, and it's just night 1. So can only imagine what things will be like when we got the money on the line tomorrow.
Yeah, I can't wait to see some of the names that make that race tomorrow night. Like we mentioned a couple times, the 52 top guys will make that server, that qualifying session, but only the top 40 after the time trials will actually be able to participate in the 150-lap main event. And like I just said, man, there's going to be so many different storylines, so many different backgrounds of guys that, might have just started sim racing a few weeks ago, like Jesse mentioned earlier. There's obviously going to be some seasoned veterans, some pro drivers going for that big money. I just can't wait when we get to that, when we drop the green flag on the main event tomorrow and see some of the racing that this new racetrack that iRacing can put on. Because it seems like when we go green here for a few laps, Evan, it seems like nobody really knows what the best line is, and I think that provides some really exciting racing.
Yeah, you got to get creative and find the best way to get around it. Of course, on that long 150-lap main event, you're also going to have to see how that changes over time, right? As the heat builds up on the track and as your tires start to wear, if drivers are going to move up the track a little bit, maybe can't stay quite down as low as they would on fresh tires. All of these factors a little bit in play tonight as these drivers have been out there for 20-some-odd green flag laps and a little bit higher than that with the caution flag laps counted in, which really doesn't wear on the tires all that much. But we'll talk all about that kind of long race run strategy tomorrow evening. Here we go. It's attempt number 1 of 3 at a green-white checkered finish. They ride on the outside wall and chase Storm Patterson, who is gone again. 2 laps to go.
Parker did not get a good restart right there. He kind of clipped the apron on the exit of turn number 4, got the car sideways, hangs on to it, but loses 3 car lengths to Michael Morley. If they can make it to the stripe, this race will be official. Parker drives into the corner deep, but the yellow is going to come out again, and we got a big wreck at turn 3.
We saw, I think it was the 31 machine of Miles Kraby who went into the inside. Let's take a look at Crab here. It's contact up the road. So Smithley and the 5 got together. It slowed the 5 up. And then with the 31, Jesse was out there trying to get past him. The 5 was coming down the road. And basically both those cars got driven into the outside wall. They went up the hill. And collected about a dozen more.
Yep, that's a straight aggression right there. Everyone's fighting. Man, that was pretty wild to see. A lot of crazy crashes, and it's what's really interesting as I'm watching quite a few wrecks. iRacing's done a really good job on the graphics and stuff of these vehicles. It's interesting to see all the different parts come off and what you can see underneath it and all that. And these guys are still chugging. They're still pushing forward. They're still fighting forward, and these cars are still moving until they can't move anymore. But the guys up front have been able to keep it fairly clean after about second place. It's not so clean, but people are still fighting. I mean, I see Garrett Smithley back there, a few spots back. He's sitting there still trying to get his tires clean, get them warmed up, get him ready to go. He's moving left and right because he knows he still has a shot. You just don't know what's going to happen. I was surprised on the last restart. P2 was not on the bumper of P1. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why you wouldn't be on his bumper, applying that pressure, ready to go. We'll see if he changes that this time around.
Just Mortley hasn't been able to stick with Patterson, Jay, something that we thought he'd kind of be able to pick up on the tendencies of the 63's restart procedure just because he's been behind him for so many of them. Storm Patterson continues to be flawless thus far. Of course, the concern is, when is that one time that you're not going to be right? But so far, so good for the 63 car. If he gets himself away, like I said, then Morley's the one that's got to be worried because he's the target. Whereas, if the race leader was there as well, maybe you're looking at more of a 3 or 4 car scrap, and maybe he wouldn't be very safe.
Yeah, the 63 of Patterson, man, he just gets through the gearbox so good, applies the power smoothly, does not spin the tires, and it seems like every single time on a restart, he just drives away off into the sunset and leaves Michael Morley sitting back in the dust. But I'll tell you right now, Josh Parker, I think, was very, very happy to see that caution right. He probably wasn't happy to see the other 15 cautions we had tonight, but he was definitely happy to see that one. I'll tell you why. As we ride on board with our pace car driver, haven't seen that view before, but Parker hit that infield, or the apron, I should say there, Evan, and it got his car sideways, and he lost a lot of ground to Michael Morley. He probably thought his race was over right there. There's no way I'm catching up to the second place car, but luckily he got the yellow he needed, and he's going to get one more shot at it. He's going to try and make it by the 6 car Michael Morley to punch his ticket into the 150-lap main event tomorrow night, as it looks like, once again, the pace lights are off for our second attempt at a green-white checkered.
Running out of opportunities because, again, only 3 attempts at a green-white checkered, so if it does not happen this time and we have to do it again, it does not matter if we get a yellow before the white flag. The race would end at that very moment. So running out of time and running out of options if you want to fight for the $10,000 purse on the line tomorrow night on our main event here for the virtual Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. So attempt number 2 at a green-white checkered finish for Storm Patterson, trailed by Morley. Again, he leads to the start-finish. Let's watch the battle for second.
Will we use the final green-white checkered attempt? Lap car coming off the bottom of the racetrack. He's going to give way to the top 3. Parker right there behind Morley as they make their way through 3 and 4. So far, so good. Parker all over the 6 of Morley. We're going to get to the white flag, Evan.
And here comes Parker driving it in. Half a car length off of the bumper of Morley. Morley better that time at a turn 2. Patterson home free in 3 and 4. He'll go for the win, but Parker going to drive the 6 of Morley up the road. Who moves high to avoid. Patterson wins. Morley second. They wreck behind, and the 63 and the 6 are going to race for $10,000.
Wow, what an exciting finish. That was crazy. And they're still wrecking right now. They're still wrecking. The race is over. There's tempers. Tempers are flaring. Some people are angry. Some people are excited. But those guys, P1, P2, they are making it to the main event day tomorrow. They're at least in the practice. Let's see if they qualify in. Oh, my goodness, that was crazy.
That was definitely some wild stuff there, Evan. I saw the 11 of Parker. I knew it was coming, man. I thought he was going to drive it in deep and get into the back of Morley, but he had already gotten to the back of Andy Trupiano and probably didn't want to leave this race with a protest on his resume there. So Parker drove it in there, tried to spook the 6 of Morley, which he did, but Morley held strong, drove off the top of the racetrack, and was able to get away from the 11 of Parker to ultimately take home second.
For all of the questions and for all of the chaos, there was one consistent here tonight for the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, and that was the 63 machine of Storm Patterson, who was untouchable and you would think has a real good opportunity going into tomorrow night to be one of the 40 drivers that qualifies for that main event. Let's take a look at our eRacing full race results. Again, it is Patterson and Morley who advance to tomorrow. Everybody else goes home. Just short for Josh Parker. Made his drive in 3 and 4. Morley moved up. They kept it clean. He's one spot short ahead of Kyle Sadowski in the number 4 spot and Zachary Hale P5. Garrett Smithley ends at a race high P6 ahead of Tim Pinion, Jacob Williams, Donnie May, and Jesse Baker.
Behind Jesse, it was the 11th place car of Andy Trupiano, who unfortunately got taken out while running in the 3rd spot. 12th was Sammy Yaha. 13th was Braden Goddard, and then behind him in 14th was Jess Chambers, the 15th place car of Chris Noblet. Behind him, Joe Quilt in the 37. Galen Brandt Clark in the 17th spot. Then we have the number 5 of Andrew Harrison, 18th, 3 laps down. Behind him, Miles Craven, then the number 31 car. David Layuk in the 20th position, car number 39.
And then continuing on through the rest of these drivers, well out of it for the likes of Chase Bradlin, Ronald Brummer, Dylan Thomas, and Trenton Embry through the number 24 spot. That a look top to bottom at your full race results tonight in this heat race. So obviously a very different format from what we will reset them for tomorrow night. Jesse, but what did you think of the race, especially up front here in this heat race?
Yeah, it was wild. I mean, I love seeing all the battling on the track. And yeah, we did have a lot of wrecks. A lot of people were wrecking. We, couldn't really get past 2 or 3 laps of green flag runs really before the wrecks happened. But that's because everyone's battling. I mean, it was a short race, only 25 laps, but cautions weren't counting. We wanted cautions not to count to give everyone a fair chance. And that's what happened. We saw that today. People who started in 13th, 14th, 15th made their way up front, as high as, 4th, 3rd, wherever. People had an opportunity to get up front and win this race, and everyone battled hard. They ran hard. I think the guys had fun. I mean, at the end of the day, they didn't spend any money to be here. They're just here fighting for a chance to win something. But hey, everyone does still actually have a chance to win something. If you entered this entire event and you competed in the heat races, you are now entered into a random drawing for an Oculus Quest 2. So even if you didn't win this race, even if you didn't finish in the top 2, guess what? You still have a chance to win something. So it was really cool to see everyone come out and compete, and I definitely had fun in the booth today.
Well, they have a great experience as well, right? So they have the opportunity to walk away with some prizes, but also the time to get on track with some of the best in sim racing and even some real-life pros. I think is going to be a real cool experience for the drivers in this one. Let's talk with your race winner tonight for the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. It's Storm Patterson, who started up front and finished there. Storm, congratulations on a great result in this one. Kind of walk us through it.
Thanks, Evan. Yeah, this was a crazy night. Wreck field for sure. We just qualified on pole, and honestly, that's kind of what gave us the win. We started up here. I mean, we were fast. Michael, I think, was the closest one to us on speed, really. I wish he could have had more green flag laps, but it is what it is. It's it's a heat race, so I mean, I wasn't kind of expecting less, but I mean, it was a fun one. I appreciate all these guys who are putting this on, and yeah, I can't wait for tomorrow.
What's going to change from this 25-lap race, of course, going into not only step 1 where you have to qualify for that main event from the 52, I think that'll have a chance, to the 40 that make the grid, but assuming you can get that done, what are going to be the differences between this short 25-lap race and try to make the car last over the course of a 150-lap feature?
Well, tonight, we didn't really have to worry about tires because it was such a short race and track position was king over everything. But, I mean, honestly, what will probably change is green flag laps more than anything, and we'll probably just have to be way more cautious off the corners to save more tire and whatnot. But, yeah, we'll probably get a lot more green flag laps without, some of these guys in here, without making it a wreck fest.
Looking forward to seeing what you and that number 63 machine can do, Storm. Before we let you get out of here, any sponsors or people you want to give a shout-out to?
Yeah, I got to thank Peak on the car. I know a couple buddies watching. Sorry, everyone with ITRL, Peak, Powertrade, Raise Energy, Rep Sports, all the guys make this happen. Blue, that was spotting for me. Matthew was crew chiefing. I can't wait to do it tomorrow night. Like I said, thanks to Jesse and all the guys at ERA for putting this on. It was very fun.
We appreciate the time as well, Storm. Congratulations on the race win, and hopefully for your sake, we'll catch you tomorrow night.
Yes, sir.
Race winner in this heat race from Nashville Fairgrounds. Again, one of what's going to be 52 drivers that are headed off to tomorrow's main event. And before we close out night one of this competition, Jesse, I wanted to thank you not only for putting this event on, but being up here in the broadcast booth with us tonight. And just wanted to give you one more opportunity to give us some closing thoughts.
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you so much for having me. And, thank you all for, being in the booth too. Y'all did great. And it was cool watching this race from here. It's my first time I've ever been in the booth for an iRacing event. So it was interesting to see it from this point of view. But I had fun up here, and definitely want to thank everyone who's been a part of this whole thing. RaceSpot, all of our team members on with ERA, with, Tim, Sean, Matt, all the folks that's been helping us. It's been a lot of hard work over the last few weeks. Folks got to remember, we pretty much began getting everything ready for this about 3 weeks ago. So in 3 weeks, we were able to put together everything we needed to actually make this thing happen. So thank you for everyone who's helped out, who's been the small. If I've forgotten any names, I'm sorry, but thank you. We've had a lot of great help making this happen, and looking forward to a great race event tomorrow. The main event should be really fun. And and everyone grab your popcorn and make sure you follow eRacing Association on all social media platforms and also Twitch. We'll be streaming again tomorrow. It should be a great race to watch, and there'll be a lot of battles on the field.
And we talked about some of those events coming up next year. If you wanted to get into those, that was eragaming.gg for more info. One down, one to go. Chase, the main event back here tomorrow night on RaceSpot TV.
Yeah, no doubt, Evan. Tonight was so fun, man. I think tomorrow's really going to check all the boxes. I think this track can put on some absolutely fantastic racing once these tires get a little bit worn out, once we get some of the best drivers, on the track battling it out for $7,500. Like I said, it's going to check all the boxes for me. I'm a short track guy. And this place, it's not a short track, as Jesse mentioned earlier. It's just over a half mile. But with these race cars, I feel like it races like a short track. And, we saw a lot of wrecks tonight. We saw a lot of contact, a lot of, bump and runs and things like that. And I think we're going to see a lot of that bump and run style of racing tomorrow night, which is something I look forward to.
One of the most renowned tracks in NASCAR's history, and we're going to give out $10,000 in prizes tomorrow night. But until then, that's it for us here on RaceSpot TV. So on behalf of our entire team behind the scenes, and for the folks at ERA, Jesse Awuji, Matt Costas, and everybody else for putting this on and to be with us tonight, and of course for our crew downstairs, Randy Jenneth, Hugo Louise, for Tyler Baxton down in the production trailer, for Chase Rodman, and myself, Evan Pasoko. I want to thank you for tuning in. Congrats to Storm Patterson, Micah Morley, and the rest of your 52 qualifiers. We are back tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time for the eRacing Association Omega Cup Finals. We'll catch you then on RaceSpot TV.